That's another thing with me.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like doing something with a client and they're just like, is this your first time? I was like, I've been doing this for 5 years. Just give me a minute. This used to take longer. I'm like, it's fine. Just deal with me. Oh my gosh. I have
Tells me
so
how
been,
similar we are. I'm like, it's so funny because I'm the same way.
I know. It's like, I feel like, when it comes to social media, we've like figured out like how to function. Like we can do a reel, we can edit, we can put captions.
Yes.
But like when it's real, if you're like, what, how do I Instacart? How do I get groceries?
Oh, my thermostat. I'm like, so what do I set my air on during the winter? Like, I'm not even lying. My ex-husband, I won't even have to text him. He'll text me. He's like, now it's going to be cold. You'll probably need to set the thermostat on it. And I'm like, I'm not even joking.
Same.
It's, it's wild. I'm like, I swear I'm an adult.
Oh, I'm with you. So we recently got one of those. It's called like what, the Nest. So it
Yes. That's what
so
I had when I got this house. I had to take the damn thing out. I'm like, give me the thing that old people use that you just push a button.
yeah, like my husband just replaced it to the fancy thing. So I text him a picture and I'm like, the hockey puck is glowing on the wall and I need to know what to do about it. And like one time he left for like, I don't know, God forbid, 2 days. And I had him like he drew a picture of our
Oh my
TV
God.
remote because I'm like, you tried to make it too streamlined. And I'm like, if you press the button, it does one thing. If you hold it, it does a different thing, which is blowing my mind. So he had to draw the remote and draw lines like if you press this happens, if you hold it, this happens. And then I lost it. So I
Oh
had to
God.
call him and be like, so remember that thing you left? He was like, how are you living? Like, how are you alive? And I'm like, let's not make judgment and just how do I turn on Netflix?
I literally same. I'm like TV, like the simple things. I'm like the TV, the thermostat, things that most people know how to work. I'm like, technology is hard.
Is I know I'm with my parents. I'm like, it is the Facebook. Like, I don't know how to do any of these things with like the young kids. Like, I have no idea. And
I die.
very,
So
I'm in
funny.
like various masterminds, and like in there, there's like some like other coaches who are like, in their 20s or something. I'm like, I'm
Yes.
like the geriatric coach at like 35
Same.
at this point. But like every time I'm trying to do something on the TikTok, like the cool kids, I like bop it. I'm like, episode 72 of the geriatric learns TikTok. What
Same.
did I just do? And they're like,
I don't even have a
oh,
TikTok because
oh,
I'm like, there's no way.
it's wild. It is like the Wild West over there. I didn't know I had one for a while. My virtual assistant just like put things from Instagram over on it. So and I was like, maybe I should familiarize myself with the app. I had to ask her how to log in. I'm like, how do you log in on TikTok? And she was like, oh my God. She's
Yeah,
like, just don't break anything that I've already done. I'm like, okay.
that would literally be me. I'm like, so
It's weird. The app is definitely weird. People are odd on TikTok.
well,
Things
and I hear that people are like super not I mean probably judgy, but like brutal. It's like you gotta have like thick skin to and I'm like, I just don't have
I
the
don't have thick
energy.
skin. I
I don't
don't.
either. I'm like, I'll cry immediately.
One negative comment, they're just like, wow, this seemed rude. I was like, I'm so sorry you felt that way. Like
I know.
instantly. I have to admit though, I avoided it because I was afraid people were gonna be mean. And I'm just like, I don't want
Me.
that. And I realized that some people I think who are feeling like there's a lot of mean people out there, I do feel like some coaches in our industry are very opinionated and that they poke on purpose. Like they go after specifically Optavia.
Yes.
They go specifically after
Oh yeah.
like if you go after Peloton, their community will eat you. I'm like, you
Exactly.
can talk about generically, maybe
Yes.
a different strategic. So I haven't had a ton of hate there. A few have been like, this is super aggressive. I'm just like, well, it got your attention. So okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, okay, when you stop scrolling,
I
yay. But
know.
some people that I know have just gotten like shit just rained upon them on TikTok is because I'm like, you kind of asked for it. Like
Yeah.
a little bit.
People love that though. And like, I mean, they live for like the confrontation and like arguments and stuff. And I'm like, I just don't have the energy to do that. Like, I just want to educate people. And if you don't get it or don't agree with it, then like unfollow or
Fine.
scroll on. Like, I mean, it's, I
Yeah,
can't,
good for you. Like find someone else.
I know, I know. I'm like, I just can't.
People are crazy. But I guess I wanted to ask you some questions about like life before macros with M. Like
Yeah.
how you started even like entering into the world of like macros and then like totally turned it into this like powerhouse. I mean, you have supplements, you have so many things. Like who were you before all of that even happened?
Oh my God. So when it all started basically from competing. I competed back in 2014 was probably the first time I competed. I did it like a natural
Before it was
NGA.
cool.
Yes, it was before it was trendy and like not everybody was on like steroids and stuff. But I did it with like several people that I knew, and we all followed the exact same meal plan. When I say all of us, we were all different like sizes, different weights. There was a guy, like we all followed the same meal
Oh
plan.
my
No
God.
shit. I know. So I was working out at home doing this. I managed a bank, and I really liked the actual like transformation that I got. I didn't love competing. I hated the posing. Like I didn't like all that attention, but I loved the actual like challenge. I was always an athlete. So like I loved the drive behind it. And so I competed a couple more times, but then I got to where I was on Instagram and I would see these girls that were posting like meals they were eating during competition prep. And like I would see hashtag like macro. I'm like, what the hell is macros? So I dove into it a little more, and then I started following Erin Diamond.
Yeah, she's the
And so,
OG.
yes, so I hired her as my coach, and that is like how I got into like learning how to like count macros. So while I was doing that, this was like in 2014. Again, macros were not like trendy. My Instagram was private and everything. I was just sharing like recipes because I had more time and I was so like excited about learning it. I was creating like low calorie anything that I could think of. And so initially how like people started following me was because I would post recipes and they're like, how are you eating that? And like that's only this many calories. Like, and people's minds were blown just like mine was. And I loved the fact that people wanted me to help them. And I'm like, yeah, I'll help everybody. So I literally was just helping people for free when I first started this because one, I didn't know I could charge for it. I wasn't certified. I didn't plan on like doing it as a business. I just loved it. I was so excited. I wanted everybody to like know this secret that I had found out. It was just like the coolest shit ever. And so there was this girl from back home that was like she did like isogenics and like an MLM. And so she was doing like these online like 21-day challenges and stuff. And I think she would charge like, it was so low cost, like $20 or something. I don't know. And everything was like in a Facebook group, and she had pre-recorded videos, and she asked me if I would help her do it and like, to
Oh,
bring more people
cool.
in. And I'm like, oh
How
my
do you
God.
guys know each other?
Because we were both like from the same area.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
yeah. And so I was just like blown away. I didn't even care if I made money. I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And so started doing that and helping her. And then while I was helping her, people just kept asking, like, can you show us how to do macros and stuff? She didn't know anything about macros. So I created the Shred program at that point,
Oh my,
which is the one I run today. So this was like 5 years or something ago. And I think my first shred, I had like 10 people in. I charged $50. I did their macros, had a workout thing. I didn't have an app or anything. It was like a PDF, but I was so excited because it was like this thing and I was like teaching people. And so when I had initially started, it was like getting testimonies like of people that I was helping for free. Then I like did this like helping someone or like working with someone and like charging and making like next to nothing. I didn't even care about the money. I just loved doing it because it was like I would do this like on my
want to
lunch
share it.
break.
Like, where's
Yes.
this been my whole life?
I would work on it on my lunch break. I would like at night, when I got home after my son was in bed, like I would do this stuff. Like I was obsessed with it. I wanted to do it all the time. And so it got to the point where it got like larger and larger. I still wasn't making a ton of money. And I never, ever would have thought it would be like a business. Never. I never intended for it to. So like at some point, probably, I don't even know when, but made my Instagram to where it wasn't private. And like, I just started like growing, not crazy or anything, but just following that way. And then it got to a point where I finally got certified, and I was probably making, I don't know, maybe $40,000 a year, if that, probably not even that. Because when we sat down, this was like in 2018, me and my husband at the time sat down, and I had just got to where I hated going to work every day. I was miserable, and I started like, I would see all these people that were like, health coaches, and they're like, I make $10,000 a month. I'm like, there's no way they make $10,000 a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like
And
you have my
so
full attention. What?
I know, I'm like, there's literally no way. And so, when we sat down and like did the absolute, like, if you could make this, and mind you, like I was making a 6-figure salary when I managed the bank. So I made good money. I was the breadwinner. We were literally in no position for me. It wasn't like he made millions and I could just quit and like go home and do like this fitness shit.
Playing with macros, like,
Yeah. I mean, it was like,
owner.
I literally had to work. There was no, I don't think people understand that. Like, I wasn't one of those where I was like, I could afford to quit. Like, we had to have my income. Like, I was the breadwinner. And I had a kid and we had a mortgage and car payments, like all of the shit, debt.
Real life things.
Yes. And so when we sat down and added everything up, it was like, I would need to make $40,000 a year for us to live. And when I say live, I don't mean like go on vacations, me buy Louis Vuitton, like literally keep the power on, go out to eat like once a week as a family, buy groceries, pay our bills, like live.
Mm-hmm. Gas in the car.
Yes. And so I decided then that I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, because I was terrified to give up like a salary. I was like, I'm going to take a bank job, but I'm going to take one where it's like something I can work from home, like a customer service representative. And that way I have a small salary, but I'll have tons of time to work on my fitness stuff. So
smart.
So whenever I gave my notice at the bank, if a lot of jobs are like this, but banking especially, because they're afraid you'll take like client information. So when you give a notice and you're going to another bank or a competitor, they will literally pay out your 2 weeks, but your boss comes and like walks you out that day.
You're gone.
And so he came and like cleaned out all my stuff. It was my 2 weeks was being paid out, so I had a little bit of buffer room. And I took this job where I was going to be working from home, probably making, I'm wanting to say it was like $12 or $14 an hour. It was not much at all, but it was enough.
Like the safety net.
Yes. And it was literally like, that was exactly it. I was terrified to give something up. And so the first like day, the phone never stopped ringing. I didn't have time to like wipe my ass when I went to the bathroom. It just never stopped. I literally, I was like, I'm not going to have time to like do anything. And so I think I did it for, I don't even know that I did it for a full week. And my husband came home one day. I had clocked out for lunch and I stood downstairs in my kitchen. I mean, I can remember this so distinctly. And I was like, I'm just not going to go back up there and clock back in. And he came home and I said, I think I quit today. And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I clocked out for lunch and I never clocked back in. And he was like, oh, and he didn't freak out, but it was the moment that I needed to like put my back in a corner to say, this is your sink or swim moment. You have to figure shit out now because you don't have a safety net. And so that first full month that I went all in on my business, I had my first $10,000 month, literally the first month. And so from then on, it just had it, you know, I don't know. I went all in on like the one thing. So the shred program was the one thing I went all in on. And of course, you know how with anything, like what you focus on will grow. So it went from like my first one had 10 people in it to like my biggest one has had like 1,200 or like 1,200 ish. And so, and I used to charge $50 and now I charge 119. So it's like, you know, different, I don't know. It's wild to me to look at where I started and like how it even evolved again, because my business was a complete accident. I never in a million years meant to start a business. I didn't even know how to like form an LLC. I didn't even have one when I first started. That there was no, I wasn't certified. I had no like business entity. It just happened. And all because it was something that I wouldn't give up on. I loved it. It literally lit me up. It was something that I was like, man, I just feel like you wake up and go to a job and you've probably felt like this and you're like, this can't be it. This literally like, this can't be it. And I did that every day. I was very good at what I did in banking. I was, you know, all the titles, vice president and blah, all the things.
All the things on paper that you're supposed to do.
Yes. And it was, I don't know. I was very well thought of. I made good money, but it just didn't, I don't know. It didn't light me up. It was, I just couldn't give up on the fitness stuff. That was the one thing that was like exciting. And then people, like when you would read their testimonies or like when they would message you and they're like, you've changed my life. And I'm like, holy shit, I changed somebody's life. Like,
They're like, what?
it's just, I know it's wild. And so even that stuff still today, like the message that I get and like just people from like my content or like my podcast or things that I'll say and they're like, literally you just saying that has like changed everything for me. And I'm like, it's, you don't even realize the weight of your words sometimes. So in a like long-winded answer there, that's essentially how things started. That was life before macros with him. I started a business on accident because I competed and followed a meal plan that I realized was stupid, got into macros, and then people just started asking for help, and here we are.
That is, I almost have like goosebumps. We have almost a parallel story, like to the
Yeah,
point
it's
of
crazy.
working with Aaron Diamond at the exact same time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I went on my own journey and it was for me. I had a private Instagram, nothing was public. I never wanted to compete, but I was like, I want to look like them, but I don't want to wear heels in front of anyone.
yes,
And so we got me down like 60 pounds. Like I was not light when I graduated PT school. And I was like, I felt like just this frumpty dumpty sitting there with my patients, just like,
yeah.
let's talk about, moving your body more safely. When
I
I
know.
was inside of a gym, I'm like, okay, like I hated that disconnect. So I hired a coach and it was a generic meal plan.
Oh
And
yeah,
I was literally shoveling, I'll never forget, cold spaghetti squash, half of an avocado, and cold ground turkey in between patients because it was like so like you have to eat it this time and then this time there was no flexibility. And
yep.
I wasn't getting anywhere. I was like, it'd be one thing if I was like half-assing this, but I'm like, nothing like for all this work. And so hooked up with Erin Diamond. Like back when I think at that time she was with her first husband, like
Yeah,
way
she
back then.
was, because Mike, like he was helping me with different, like
Yeah,
he
she
was
would send me like his
emailing and
videos.
responding. Yes, and that's probably how I started following you was because of through her, like seeing, because I'm sure I followed you first.
Yeah, it was probably like one of those kind of things. And yeah, I did it for myself and I just really liked it. And then I just started looking different. I'd post pictures of like my husband and I out to dinner, like just going on a date night kind of thing. And like people from like everyone that used to know me, like from high school, undergrad, grad school, like you always kind of trust the like fat, smart, quiet girl. That was me. And it was like you started helping people. And it just the business kind of happened. It was like, oh, I
Yeah.
guess I do this now.
Yeah, it's wild. It cracks me up because people will still ask and they're like, but how do I do what you do? Like, I'm like, first of all, you're seeing like the 5 years into it thing. Like, I didn't start at 175,000 followers. I didn't start at 1,200 people in a shred. Like, I started at like one follower, just like everyone else. I started at 10 people in a shred. And so it's like people don't like see the grit and the grind and the like purpose behind it. Like everybody's so driven by money, which is fine. Everybody's got their carrot. That's fine. But like everybody wants like a huge following or all this money and all these things. And it's mine never was driven by anything other than wanting a job that I was happy doing and being able to be home with my son more and do things with him at school. Like I wanted to just enjoy what I did for a living and make enough money to live. Like there was, I don't know, it's crazy. So,
I think that's why it's probably so successful is like just watching your page, like you're so excited about it. Like
yeah.
the meal, like you wouldn't be able to do the volume of content you do with like meal like hauls or it's like grocery hauls from like various stores, your favorite products. Like I also don't think people fully grasp the amount of time it takes to make a post
Oh,
like
I know.
in like the volume of pictures you have to go through and like then caption and editing and like there's so much that goes into it. You're
Mm-hmm.
like your content looks good. It's not like you just like snapped a photo and like threw it up. Like there's thought that goes into it. Answering questions, like you couldn't do that volume unless you're passionate about it, which
Yeah.
is I think why it's done so well. It's just like you like it's like this, I don't know, like I don't know, I would say like I binge your content just because like even like as like a season macro tracker, I'm like, that is such a good idea.
Yeah.
Like I like
Yeah.
it's so easy, like this is a cool new thing. Like you're just so
Yep.
excited about it, which is so cool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is so helpful though when you see other people, you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Like not like ripping off their stuff, but I mean, everything is like recycled, like everybody's posted the same kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like when you can put your own spin on something, I think that's it's like helpful when you see other people's stuff. You're just like, oh, that I could do this with that. You know, I do the same thing.
Yeah, or it's like how like they worded something, or like I think like
Yes.
I posting Lily from Lily Eats and Tells, like
Yep.
whatever, however she came up with that crunchy cheese egg wrap thing.
Dude,
Oh
I wear it
my,
out.
oh my gosh. And so like
I wear it
it
out.
was so fun to like learn that from her. Then like I share it with my community, like people share it, and then like more people get to like access. I think that's the fun part of social media. And there's some people that come in, they're like, I wrote this post and like no one said anything. I'm like,
I
well, you
know.
have to be social on it.
I know. It's so wild to me. I'm like, not everything's gonna be like a, home run.
I know. I've done lives to zero people when I first
Yeah.
started. And I'd
Yeah.
be like trying to like, save face because you save it to your page. People watch it later. And I remember like the first couple lives, like no one was there. And I'd be like, thank you guys, everyone, for coming to anytime with questions. You can just go ahead and drop them all. No one was there. I could literally go find those right now. Like no one was there. And I was like, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
I love it. You know what though? My memories on like my stories will show up, and there's some from like when I first started, and me talk like I used to be terrified to talk on my story, and I would say up until like the last like couple years, like I used to never speak on my story. Now I can get on there and look like a homeless person, and I don't give a shit.
You get used to it quickly.
Do I'm like I don't care. Like I mean, it is what it is. But I can remember I used to be terrified, and so like I'll see these memories come up, and I'm like, God love it. It just didn't even, when I watch myself, I was so like awkward and nervous. I'm like,
it was like, did I really think anybody wanted to hear that? Or like there was no energy? I think I knew I like crossed over into being like, I just show up in my stories as I am now. When I was walking and it was cold outside, so we had some like ice on the ground here. And like I was walking in an area that was like not icy, but a car was coming. So I stepped off to the side, not in the most strategic way. And I like did one of these and in the process, drooled on myself. But I was so into what I was saying. I felt like it was like a really, really good like vibe and like I was saying things. So I just kept going with it and shared it and then like zoomed in like one of the stories. And it was like,
I love it. That's what people like though. They like that you're normal. You know what I mean? It's like the number of one of the best compliments I ever get, and I get it all the time, is I love how normal you are. When I travel, because I travel a ton, always. I have pretty much everywhere I've ever gone, even out of the country, like on a hiking trail in Hawaii. I had a girl say macros with them. Like it has happened everywhere. I'm not kidding.
Cool. Does it just make you like, oh
my God? I'm always like, me? And when I talk to everybody and they're like, can I get a picture? And I'm like, of course, whatever. And but it's just so funny because they're like, you're so normal. And I'm like, yes, I am like very weird normal. I'm like, you should see me in real life. I don't wash my hair half the time. Like I look like a homeless person. So it's but it is super cool to like when people stop you, and it's just wild to me. Like I was at the Dave Matthews concert in Riverbend I don't even know what today is. Like just a few days ago.
Dave
Dave. And this girl walks up and she's like, oh my God, I follow you. And, she's like, can I take a picture? I'm like, of course. And so like, she was just like, it made my night. And I'm like, that's just so cool because who am I? I'm not even anybody. But like the fact that people think I'm cool, I'm like, yeah, let's take a picture.
Do you remember your first one? Do you remember the first, like, oh my God?
It was the girl, because this has been like 3 years ago in Hawaii, the girl on the hiking trail. That was the first time. And then since then, every single time I've traveled, Bahamas, Mexico, like everywhere in Mexico, like airports, literally everywhere. Arizona, I was hiking with my sister, got stopped on a trail there. A girl that was like, I'm in your membership. Like, I mean, it's happened here, obviously, locally, but like literally everywhere I've ever traveled. When I just got back from Charleston, and some people won't like stop me there, and then they'll message me after like, I saw you in the airport, or but it's just like the cutest shit ever because I'm like, I don't know, it's wild. It literally is wild to me that I don't know.
Oh, that's so cool. I remember I've had it only one time, and it was when my husband and I were RV traveling, and I was in a random Planet Fitness, and it was a girl that messaged me. Well, no, I guess I worked out at the same Planet Fitness for 2 days in a row. And the first day I was there, like normal workout. And then the next day I was there, like Planet Fitness, they do have all the like no like muscle T stuff. And like I was newer to that gym.
Yep.
So I was so afraid to like break the rules. I love how they're like gym positivity, but like
I
I
know.
found the rules intimidating. I didn't want to break
Yes.
a rule, but it was so hot. So I had a tank top on, but like it was like like it wasn't like crazy or anything. And I was in the locker room and someone went, excuse me. And I literally thought it was someone that worked at the gym. And so I turned on, I was like, I am so sorry. I can cut, like, let me just, do you have a t-shirt? Like I started apologizing for wearing a tank top. And she was like, what? I don't work here. I was like, oh, what? And she was like, you're Hannah. And I was like, I made it so weird because I thought I was breaking the rules.
So great.
But she was like, I told my husband I saw you yesterday. And he's like, did you say hi to her? And she was like, of course I did not say hi to her. And I was like, what?
That is so cute. It's just the cutest. It's like so flattering, but it's like the not weird, but it's weird when you think like that people, you know what I mean? Like social media is just wild, like how people follow you and like know you. And I guess I would do the same thing too if I saw somebody that I followed that I was just like, oh my God, I love you. You know, I'd probably do the same thing too and like fangirl out for a minute, but it's just
Totally. Oh, that's awesome. So now with how big it's grown, so you've had what you said, 1,200 people in a shred. So how on earth do you manage that? Like, do you have a team that people like help calculate the macros? How many like people are helping you like orchestrate all this at this point?
I've got two full-time employees. And
Oh,
so
so
one
so
is
cool.
in Alaska and one's in Vegas. And it's wild
No.
because but like I've never met either one of them in person. And like Danielle works for me and does like all the recipes for the shreds. And like I met her through like her doing my shreds and losing her baby weight and everything. So it's really cool like how it was like come full circle. And she would just like tag me every time she would share to her story like her like transformations and stuff. And we would just talk back and forth. And it got to a point where I was like, I had told her I had asked, I'm like, hey, you should do recipes for my shred program. And she's like, oh my God, yeah. And so then it got to a point where she was complaining about work some. And I was like, you should just let me hire you full time. And she was like, LOL. And I was like, oh, I'm not kidding. And so then like,
No jokes over here. Dead serious.
it was like the next day or so, she was like, how serious were you? And I was like, I'm literally dead serious. So she was the first person I hired, and like she does a lot of my like behind the scenes stuff as far as like the newsletter and like runs the shred page and the post and makes everything all pretty and the recipes for the shred and stuff like that. So she was the first hire, which changed my life because before that I literally was trying to do everything as far as like, and then when I had the supplements, I was the fulfillment for the supplements. I was the customer service person. I was doing everything for the shreds, everything for my monthly membership, like literally everything all by myself. My podcast, trying to
When you turn oppressive, like when you're like, I love everything,
oh
but
yeah,
oh my God, I'm drowning.
I was seriously like I was making such good money, but I never had time to live or spend it because I was probably working like during shred times. I would say easily 16, 18-hour days. Like I never stopped. So it was just,
Don't see. They're like, I want a big account. I want to like do this group program, and you're just like,
I mean, people don't realize like, again, you don't realize like what all goes into, and like when you're a solo entrepreneur, like you're literally doing everything. And so now like the supplements, there's a warehouse and a fulfillment center. Like I don't have to do, but like when I first started doing that, it was like, I was doing everything. I was fulfilling it from my damn house. Like I was the one packaging your order. I was the one, if you had something like I'm emailing you back and,
yeah.
it's just crazy how yeah, it's
And
wild.
then how did you get your teammate in Alaska?
So Danielle's the one in Alaska, and then
Oh,
the other
okay.
one's in Vegas. And she was a referral from Danielle. She
So,
was,
so
yeah.
that's crazy. And ironically, I expanded my team recently. Both of my coaches are also former clients.
Isn't that crazy? It's just wild how I mean, it works like it's perfect though, because people, they know you and your business and like how things, you know what I mean? Like, so it just, I
And
don't
I
know.
think it's just a different energy. Like no one knows like the client experience like they do because that's how they found you. And it's someone who's like
Exactly.
so in,
Yeah.
so excited about it, and that makes such a big difference.
I know I always think about it because I used to manage in retail. And so it was like when, I was hiring like associates, sales associates, I'm like, I want people that actually shop here and like like the stuff because they'll be excited to sell it. And so it's kind of the same thing when you think about like hiring people to work for you, like people that already enjoy your content or have been through your program or worked with you one-on-one. I remember back like a few years ago, when I used to do one-on-one, I hired my like first assistant coach then was somebody who had worked with me one-on-one for like probably 2 years. And it was easy because, you know, she knew.
They knew your vibe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did you go straight full on, like, oh, hold on. When did you go full on, one-on-one, getting rid of that and then like straight into shred?
That was, let's see, probably I would say 3 years ago, I ditched the one-on-one, and that came from working with a business coach. I had no idea this was one of those things you don't know what you don't know. And you just do what you've always done. And I used to charge next to nothing for coaching because I didn't know any better. And so whenever I was talking to my coach and I said something about, because at the time, one-on-one clients, I probably had 80 and I was by myself.
Ooh,
80 one-on-one clients. So again,
that hurts.
oh no, yep. And
That
I was
hurts.
charging, yep, this will hurt even more. I think I was charging $60 a month.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
That just physically hurts to say.
And then I eventually raised it to where it was like, I think I charged, it was still very inexpensive to work with me, very inexpensive. I
For
can't,
one-on-one, like, damn.
yeah, it was crazy. So when I told him, I said, I can't remember how I worded it. I said, but one-on-one is like my one thing. And then the shred is like like what? And he was like, no, the shred should be your one thing because that's what you can scale. He said, one-on-one, unless you're going to hire coaches and do all that. He was like, there's only one of you. So you can only physically work with so many people.
Limits you.
And he was like, when you do a group program, that's the thing that you can scale. And I was like, son of a bitch, I never thought of that. So until then, like I'd always push like one-on-one, and then the shred was just kind of like this thing. And then once he said that, it changed everything. Like when I say my income, like wildly drastically changed, like it was literally because I went all in on the shred and started offering it more, raised the price, just put all like more into the program itself. Like I said, like exclusive recipes and things now that I have an app, all that stuff I didn't have before because it was just like this thing over here that people could do.
Kind of like a side project.
Yep. And so it's just crazy how when you invest in someone to like that has been there and they think bigger and they, you know what I mean? Like it's, you can't see it because you're in it every day. And I was always so just in my business, working in it and on it, that I couldn't like zoom out and see anything other than like, I just have to take care of people. I just have to take care of people, post stuff on Instagram. Like that was all I did. And so then it was like, after he told me that, I'm like, huh. And so then we like set goals as far as like, let's bring somebody on to help do all the things that you can't. So like when I brought on Danielle, she did all of like the shit. So then I could take care of all the clients. I could do all the custom macros. I could do all of that. So like she was doing the things like the newsletter and content creation and like just things that were extra things for me that didn't require like me to physically do them, where the things that did physically require me, I could just focus on those. So anything that wasn't like, didn't have to be me, I outsourced. That was
hard for you to do. That was hard for me to like,
yes.
My content is always my words, but to have like anyone be like, do you want to make this like thing and post it for me, like was horrifying for me.
Oh yeah. It literally, the first little bit, I was very hesitant to do it because I was like, but it's not me doing it. And then when I saw her, like the work, I was like, okay, like she's crushing this. Like, why did I never do this sooner? And then it's, you know, it's one of those too that like, as you're doing like different things and it's like, if they can do it like 80% as good as you, then it's like, let somebody else do it, you know? And because I think for the longest time, I was always like, but I can do it better, or that has to be me, or I have to be the one to do that. And when you learn to delegate, like that's the thing that has expanded me the most and like grown my business the most, is like learning to let go. I mean, it's crazy because I was the one thing that was bottlenecking my business because I was literally trying to do everything. And so it grew so fast that I just like, it was hard to keep up by myself. And then I was like, you know, my one business coach at the time was like, you need to do supplements. And I'm like, okay, great. And so then I'm like doing the, you know, supplements, and it was, but I was literally doing everything. And so I'm like, that was great in theory, but at the same time, like I have no time to be alive. Uh, yeah.
And you
So,
did this to spend more time with your son and like help him like out at school. And you're like, well, that ship has sailed.
yep. So it, yeah, it's crazy because it took a lot of like pulling back and, you know, working with a coach so that you can like zoom out for a second and be like, oh, and it's
Yeah.
just crazy how many like light bulbs.
Like the women we work with, they want to lose weight so badly that like we're that objective party. Like, well, you see all these things that we're doing that we could approach from a different angle. Like they just can't see it. They're too in it.
In it. Yep. And I did that for a long time with weight loss too. Like it, you don't, it's like, you know, but then you, again, after you look and you're just like, then you, when it hits you, you're like, oh, like I can tell you, for example, the longest time I was like, no, I'm eating 1,500 calories a day. I don't know why I'm gaining weight. And then I'm like, oh, I have like cheat weekends every weekend and I eat like a complete asshole. I'm not really eating 1,500 a day when I average it out. Like that took me years. Even as a coach, it took me years to like, because when I first started doing this, I was probably 15, 20 pounds heavier than I am now. So like, that's the thing too. You know, people let stuff like that hold them back from starting their business because they're like, I'm not as good a shape as I need to be in. And I'm like, neither was I. I wasn't certified. I didn't even have a business.
Yeah, I know what I was doing.
Yeah. And so, you know, now when I look back on those times too, I'm like, I was an idiot. Like I literally used to do, you know, I don't know. It's crazy how it's like simple things, but then the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my God, I am so stupid. Like, how did I not realize that I was doing that for that long? But yeah, so I did that all the time. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. Been there. Been there. So within your shreds, because I just got that email. So I've like subscribed your emails for like, I don't know, like 12 years at this point. Is so you just June shred just opened. So
yep.
how does that work for you guys? Like is like enrollment open for like a week or two, and then the program itself is like 12 weeks. Like how does that even like work?
It's only a 4-week program and I offer it monthly.
Oh,
So I usually have enrollment open like 7 to 10 days. And then we start on Monday. So like enrollment's been open. It'll be open for probably 10 days by the time we start. And I'll keep it open up until like through Monday. And then this one is a DIY. So it's do it yourself. You get your custom macros, your training program, everything in my app, my recipes, all of the things. But the do it yourself it doesn't have office hours with me. So they essentially get all the resources and guides and they have access to everybody in like the discussion board in the group. Like they can communicate with each other. And then I have a Facebook community that's got probably 11 or 12,000 people in it. And a lot of those people have done the shred. So it's like people are very good about like helping each other. And I'll try to like jump in there and answer questions too. But so the DIY is like do it yourself essentially. They still get the customization of their macros and everything. But then like the shred with them that is offered like 4 times a year, that one is the one where I'll do office hours and I go in weekly on Wednesdays from 9 to 5 and they can post any question in the world they have, and I sit and I will answer every single question. It doesn't matter what it
even when
is.
there's 1,200 people in it.
Yep.
How do you manage custom macros for that many people? Are you the only one setting them at this point, or can
No,
your
I have a coach. Yeah, a coach that helps me. Yep.
like I cannot even imagine. So I feel like I've always been one-on-one coaching. That's where I found the most success for me personally. And that's just kind of like I'm coming from the world of healthcare. I always thrived in like one-on-one with my patients. I hated being double booked. Like, so it's just kind of like where the direction my business has gone. But even when I think of like group programs, I'm always like hesitant to go down that direction. So I'm like, well, some people come in and you're like, your custom macros actually you need to eat more. And like, they don't want to. And I feel like there's like so much dialogue. Do you find there's like women that come into your program, they're expecting to get like really low macros
All the
and
time.
up them and they're like, what?
Every single time. I literally can't even tell you how many discussions I have or email responses back to people after plans are sent where I literally have to explain to them, I'm like, I'm looking at your questionnaire. You're telling me that you're eating 1,500 calories, but you're not consistent with that. That tells me that that amount is too low for you and you're overeating and I like to have to go through this whole thing. But yes, it happens every time, tons of times. So there is a lot of dialogue there, but I also feel like I do a really good job of providing so much education and content on social media around those things that it's almost setting your future clients up to be far more educated when they're working with you, so they don't expect to come in and be like, oh, I get to eat 1,000 calories a day and then do a ton of cardio. Yeah, that kind of thing.
That's genius.
So
So it doesn't surprise them. Like it's almost like you're yourself on social media. You talk about what like you believe in. So when it happens, they're more bought in.
yes, yep.
Now, do you see people like repeat like they've done every shred like DIY shred for like an entire year because it's like do they get like the new macros if they need adjusted that
Yep.
time, that kind of thing, and they just keep rolling.
So, and the reason so when I first started the shred, I did it as a 4-week program because honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was just like,
This
and
sounds fun.
so, and then like after it got successful and like popular, I was like, okay, what I had learned, I even tried to like do one where it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks and people fall off in longer durations. And what I found is that people will buy in for a short-term commitment because they're like, I can do anything for 4 weeks. Then when I started offering it each month, they're like, it's almost like chunks, blocks where they're like, I've got this 4 weeks, I've got this 4 weeks. So it's like
renewed like vigor.
And the thing with macros too, it's a lot of people will say, oh, do I need an adjustment every week? No, like most people can ride out a set of macros for anywhere from, especially if they're just starting a dieting phase. Some people may not need an adjustment going into their like next shred, but yes, I'll have people that do consecutive ones. And I love seeing the like progressions when they send in their testimonies and stuff of like they just went from this shred and this one and like comparing the pictures. It's awesome. But I have found far more success with offering it that way because it is lower commitment and people will buy into a shorter duration because it's like I can do anything for 4 weeks. And then once they do it for 4 weeks and they're like, I can do this. Yeah. And so I think it's easier for them to like almost chunk it out that way versus they sign up for a 12-week program. I've even done this before. And it's like, it seems so daunting because it seems so far away. You know what I mean? Like the goal seems so far away.
Mm-hmm. I'm still paying attention, but there's a spider next to me.
Oh my God. I'm
right. That is the one thing. I can do blood. I can do guts. I've scrubbed it on surgeries. I cannot handle bugs.
Yeah, I don't like spiders or anything.
He's dead now. We're okay. We're okay. So no, this is so cool to learn how the shred works. So I guess if like someone following, like I'm so excited to share this with like my community, my email subscribers, like someone that like would be new to your world. What are things that you would want them to know, like about you and like even like how you navigate in your own personal life, when to track macros and when to not? I feel like that's like the biggest thing that so many people find macros so oppressive. And I find it's those people that find it oppressive are the ones that never learn how to step away in an opportune moment. So how do you navigate that?
So I would say a couple of things that I find the most important or that have helped me the most is when I learned about nutrition periodization. So learning that I like right now, I only cut
diet forever.
Yeah. I cut one time a year and it's literally now like 6 weeks, sometimes 8, depending on what's going on or what I like, if I have a goal or whatever, but usually it's just to tighten up before summer. And so I don't have to get like ultra aggressive. I'll do like a 6 to 8 week cut. I only do 60 minutes of cardio a week. That has stayed that way for like the last probably 3 years. But it's one of those, again, like coming from a competitive world where I was doing like 60 minutes a day. So the nutrition periodization was the biggest thing for me, just learning like being at maintenance the majority of the year, like pretty much the whole year, minus like probably 2 months. So that's the first thing, like people understanding that you need to periodize it. You need to pick times to diet when you can be the most consistent and adherent. So if you know that you're going to travel a lot in the summer, you do a lot of like social things in the summer, you like to eat on, patios and have drinks, dieting in the summer is probably not your best option because you're going to spin your wheels a lot. That took me
Oh
a
yeah.
long time to learn,
Brunch,
but I did that.
rooftop bars.
Exactly. So for me, maintenance in the summer is great. So like I diet like right before summer, so like I can look good in a bikini, but then I will reverse to maintenance and I spend the summer and everything in maintenance. And I will say during those times, I am pretty diligent with like tracking. I don't really take time off from tracking in the summer other than vacations. But I also don't eat like a complete idiot on vacations. I'll pick one meal and a dessert that I splurge on, and my other two meals, it's usually dinner and like dessert. And then my other two meals are protein packed fruits and veggies, like things that I would normally eat. And then I pick the one meal and a dessert to have like more fun with my son and my family. Usually we'll do like dinner and ice cream. Uh, so that's another thing. But then, like I said, the times that I step away from tracking will be in the winter during the holidays. So I'll track the majority of the like through the summer so I can keep an eye on things. I still weigh regularly. And then when like winter comes, I'm fine like November, December, January, usually not really tracking at all. I enjoy the holidays. Again, I don't eat stupid, but I also don't track daily. I eat a lot of the same food, so I'm sure I still, fall within like the same range most of the time, but I do know that I'll slip into a surplus here and there because I will gain like a couple of pounds during those times. But I'm fine with that because I keep myself to where I know I'm going to cut again, like when like late spring comes. But that's the times that I'll take off from tracking. But the tracking and the weighing and measuring that I do throughout the year teaches me about portion sizes so I can eat out easily. Again, like things that make me feel good, that I digest well, things that give me good energy, things that make me super sleepy, things that make me feel like shit. Like I know those foods. I know, I don't want to say what to avoid, but I also know what to expect when I'm eating that kind of stuff. So like Thanksgiving, I'm not going to like, I still enjoy myself, but I also know if I wake up the next day 2 pounds heavier, that it's not fat gain. Like things like that you learn, I think it comes with time because we live in a society where we're conditioned where, you see anything on the scale, you're like, oh my God, it's like everybody freaks
All
out.
is lost, all the progress is gone, and like flip on to full on bucket mode, and you're like, I just waited a minute. Just easy there, Tiger. Just stay with me.
Yep. So nutrition periodization, that's probably like the biggest thing. And then I would say for people that are like tracking macros, this is one of the things I wish I would have learned sooner is just really focusing on like the calories and protein portion. Like, yes, I don't like to get too in the weeds, but like keeping fat in a certain range. I don't think people struggle though keeping fat in a like healthy range most of the time. Like the majority of the people I see, like their fat's usually higher, which I'm fine with. I think people that struggle keeping fat higher are ones that have competed before and are used to like getting super low like fat. So I
like
usually
30
don't have
grams of fat a day. It's like,
yes.
boom, let's
And
just.
so like I'm very big on telling people like just focus on calories and protein. It gives you more flexibility. It helps you be more consistent and adherent. You're not doing the macro Tetris. Like I used to be so like Aaron used to tell me, I've never had a client that is literally so to the gram and spot on as you. Like it was wild. It
You
was
and I were probably like twins when she was coaching. She was probably like, what is with these two?
like
Oh my
I thrived on it. Like it was almost like I was getting graded. It was crazy how like
I
OC.
turned it into too oppressive for a
Yep.
while because I was so like the gram. If I was off by 2 grams, I'm eating everything.
Like I would be like the one that's like taking a couple blueberries. If it was like I was measuring out 50 grams and I hit 52, I
You
would
don't have
literally
to
like,
come on. Or like the sprinkle of oats if it's like at 44 and you're trying to get 45, you're like, oh, I'm going to get you. Mm-hmm.
it's
I've been
wild.
there.
It's
And I think
crazy.
this is so valuable for people to hear someone like yourself, like your page's macros with M, hearing that you also approach it flexibly. People I
Oh
think
yeah.
who like approach macro tracking sometimes think they sign their name in blood. I'm like, you do not sell your soul to the macro trackers. Like
Yep.
you can choose when and how aggressively you use it.
Yes. And I think that's the biggest thing that I tell people all the time too, because when they come into it and they are nervous about it, I'm like, counting macros is not a life sentence. It is something to get you to a goal. It's to teach you how to weigh and measure your food, how to like what foods make you feel good, how to get like adequate protein in, how to look at a plate and know that it's, you know what I mean, like a balanced meal, how to be able to go out to eat at a restaurant. And when you get a 8 ounce piece of chicken, to know that when you're logging 4 ounces, you've actually ate, you know, stuff like that. And so I always tell people, I'm like, you're not, I think people think when they sign up to track macros, they're going to have to do it till they die to keep like the way they look. And it's just not that. It's a huge educational tool if you use it that way. But I think so many people are so used to like doing it and then, or they want a meal plan to follow and then they use that as a crutch. And it's like people don't learn anything. And so I don't know. I think with just giving yourself like the flexibility, knowing how to periodize your nutrition. So, like being honest with yourself and figuring out like, this is when I can diet, this is when I should not diet, so that you don't spin your wheels and yo yo because you just get frustrated. And then understanding that there's flexibility in just tracking your protein and your calories. And then also truly using it as a tool and knowing that you're not going to do it forever. And if you do it the right way, you won't have to do it forever. So, like I said, I don't track, you know, I get that question all the time. No, I do not track every day. Even right now, like technically I'm in a cutting phase, but I eat a lot of the same food. So, like, I don't track every single thing every day just because you know what I mean? I eat a lot of the same. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I would say as far as like making it the most user friendly, and like least intimidating.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable. I think people just forget that they can be flexible. They're afraid to not be perfect. And it's like, well, if
Yep.
you never mess up, you'll never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I feel like I just want to hang out and talk with you all day, but I don't want to take up your whole day. But I have two fun questions before you leave.
Yeah.
First one is if you had to eat one meal and only that meal forever, what would you pick?
Are we saying healthy or not healthy?
Oh, whatever you want.
Oh
Like go
God,
for it.
it's so hard because there's so much stuff that I love. If it
I'll
was
give you
something,
mine. I feel like I've cheated with my answer, but for me, I would just choose the category of breakfast foods.
see,
I'm
that's kind of
like,
how I am. So
like eggs, pancake, oatmeal, French toast, like smoothies. Like I feel like I would much rather I like breakfast foods more than I like lunch foods. Like I'm not a
yes.
sandwich person. I think
So
sandwich.
if I was saying like I love Mexican, I could eat
Oh, that's
Mexican
good.
like for dinner every night, but I wouldn't like want that for breakfast. Breakfast foods I can eat for every meal of the day, every day, never get sick of it. Egg whites, English muffins, oatmeal, like pancakes,
Yep.
waffles, I can eat for every single meal every day and never get tired of that shit ever.
I mean, I'd love it. So, yep, I'm the same way. And this might be weird, but this is a thing within my community is do you eat your cottage cheese with a spoon or a fork?
A spoon.
Oh, fork. I am team fork. And everyone is revolting against me. It is with a fork. I don't know if I even can follow you anymore. What is this spoon garbage?
You know what? Honestly, I usually dip it with a chip so I don't use a utensil. Like when I
Okay,
use so
loophole.
yeah, usually it's like a piece of food, like I'm dipping something in it, like chip dip. So a lot of times I don't even use like silverware.
That's fair. You choose edible utensils. Well played. That is next level.
I know I'm insane.
That is hilarious. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate this and just like getting to know you better and like
Oh,
sharing like more about like your shred, like with my community. And just I feel like there's some coaches, like we've been around doing this forever. And I'm just like, I want us to like just actually know each other instead of just being
yeah.
like a random person I followed forever.
No,
I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. You have anything crazy the rest of your day or just shred
I'm gonna
stuff
go
because
lay out in
because
the
you're
sun
onboarding.
and work outside.
I love it. We have a little covered patio that I think I'm going to go do some client stuff on after this. But let's do. I'll snag a picture for us, and I'll share on Instagram, and then I'll let you go on with your day. All
Yay.
right. Yay! Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of your
You
workday, and
too.
I will let you know when this blog goes live. It'll probably be like
Okay.
2, 3-ish weeks, and I'll send you all the links and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah.
You're welcome. I'll see you later.
I
Bye.